It's the end of the month once again, and we're seeing a red month for BTC. However, the stock markets are seeing an explosion in price, putting to bed the bearish narratives, the recession, the fears that the markets are going to collapse. They've had 5 green months in a row, looking at the S&P and the Nasdaq. So are we about to see a flip for Bitcoin coming up? I've got heaps of all-time high data to have a look at, things that we have not seen in 16 years and potentially even over 20 years as well. So stick with us, hit that like, subscribe to the channel. 3 out of 10 of you haven't subscribed yet, so make sure you do that down below. This is your home of macro cycle analysis. We cover the crypto markets, the Bitcoin, the stock markets, commodities, and of course, real estate. The only place on the internet that puts it all together for you, our holistic view at the markets. All right, guys, links in the top of the video description as per usual. We've got our $8 million trading competition going on with Bybit now. It's a World Series of Trading. So if you want to join our trading squads, link in the top of the video description, use that one there to be part of our trading team there on Bybit. Get your chance at $8 million in prizes. All right, let's kick it off with Bitcoin right now. I'm back from the fevers of last week here in Spain now. So let's crack on with the rest of the Bitcoin analysis. Now, looking at Bitcoin, where we currently sit for July, it's been a slightly red month, 3.6%. With a lot of the data, it was looking at a potential green July. But this time around, it's similar to what's happened in 2019, a 6% drop. 2016, 7% drop, and 2014 was a 9.6% or 9.7% drop. So we've seen a slightly negative July. However, the most important thing here is the structure. I know a lot of people pay attention to, is next month going to be green? Is it going to be red? And they weigh everything on that in the hopes that potentially buying now and then selling at the end of the month, they're going to make some profits. But the main thing to focus on is the structure of the market itself. And like we can see, higher lows, higher highs remain. This is a slow process. We've covered this for a long time now for BTC as we picked up the lows here in June. We picked up the lows again in November. And finally, this really significant low here in March of 2023. So they've been the main areas for BTC as we've climbed out of the bear market, continued to put structure in for a bull market. Now, not only do we look at Bitcoin, of course, we look at the rest of the markets because that is going to give us an insight as to what's happening across the globe. We want to understand if there is a risk appetite out in the market space for a higher beta play, something like Bitcoin, a riskier asset, if you will, compared to traditional markets. Now, if there is a lot of positivity, a lot of pumping going on in traditional markets, a lot of money going into traditional markets, eventually we know that that money finds its way back into higher beta plays or riskier assets like Bitcoin. It's a matter of time. Now, with Bitcoin, we've seen it happen multiple times over the years where it does nothing for a period of time, or we get a collapse for a period of time, then it does nothing, and then we see pumps. And the pumps pretty much last about 12-ish, maybe 18 months of the entire bull market. The first half of the bull market can be quite slow, which is what we're seeing here. There's still heaps of gains to be had, but that really fast period, that exciting period, that emotional period that everyone waits for is basically the end of the market. So that's basically what you could call or label your retail bull market, where all of the noobs get into the market. So that's the area that we want to start scaling out of our positions. Now is the entry time. So let's keep that in mind as we continue forward with the analysis going forward into what might happen in the next couple of months, as we've been doing for quite some time here. Now, as we remain in this level here underneath $32,000, eventually we get the break. So this area looks like it is accumulation. Now, we've got to be particularly careful here that we continue to watch the significant lows. If that low breaks, then it was distribution, meaning that people were selling or smart money was selling to drop the price down. But while that level holds, while that $25,000 level holds and the market just continues to grind its way sideways with lowering volatility, then we could potentially say that this is reaccumulation after the lows before we get the breakout. Now that's only just looking at Bitcoin and what's happening here. It's that pattern that I've brought up multiple times now on the channel, looking at significant plays on the stock markets, which is exactly what happened in the stock markets. Remember, we looked at this the last couple of days. Just as a reminder, the short pullbacks that you saw in the market before it broke out and skyrocketed was at the time when most people were saying the market had to fall from that point. The market should come down. We need to get a bigger collapse. It's potentially going into a bubble. It needs some time to pull back and break those previous lows because of every single wall of worry problem that has come up in the markets. Now, the wall of worry is essentially what happens in a bull market. You see this exact pattern play out where you get higher and higher lows and the price keeps eventually going up, sometimes really fast and sometimes a little bit slower and then fast again. That's the wall of worry because there is still a lot of negative economic news that continues to come out. And what I've done on Twitter here is go through and keep a record of it, because majority of people, we know over 90% of people lose in the markets because they basically don't study the history, they don't study anything to do in the past, and they get swept up in the news headlines. And this is really helpful because if you are swept up in any news headlines of today, whatever that might be, it changes every single day. Then you can just come over here and have a look at, well, what was the problems back in March? What was the problems back in November? What were the problems in June and May and all that sort of stuff? And pretty much covers the basis of the wall of worry, all of the problems, yet the market is now above all of those problems that we saw in 2021. We had the Evergrande collapse of China. In 2022, we had the war. We still have the war. We have inflation, rising interest rates, banking collapse, US debt ceilings, you name it. The markets have overcome that, and that is what a wall of worry is. So we're seeing a solid bull market performing here. So that's helpful for Bitcoin as well, as it continues to hold its ground above 25K, below 32K, and eventually I think we'll get the pop as that similar pattern is playing out here, like we saw on the S&P. Big pop, like we saw with the NASDAQ down on the monthly chart here, and also on the weekly chart. You can really see where the market was getting wound up before a big explosion to the upside. Basically, it's getting held underneath key resistance levels, just like what's going on for Bitcoin right now. Now, the exciting part that I've seen is across the European markets, and I want to cover some of these areas of big moves that they've seen. But in this case, what we just saw in Europe this month, so the end of July, the end of last week as well, is the exact same pattern. Look at how much the market had wound up since April of 2023, putting in multiple tops and a massive, massive breakout. If you look at this with the Gann swing indicator, you can see the swings were slightly lower than each other, but in a macro sense, you've got all higher swing lows. So it's important to pay attention to the time frame there. Now, in terms of this small pullback here, if we drop it down onto the daily, you can see that we had a smaller pullback before the explosion there. So I'm paying particular attention to that with BTC. Should we get something like that eventually as we start to climb, and then maybe a pullback, maybe that's the time where we get that push through to the upside. So keep an eye on that when it comes to this particular pattern as the market continues to wind up. So what we've just seen for the top 50 stocks in Europe, remember there's over 1 billion people there, and they have some of the biggest markets in the world, the UK, Germany, France, you name it, okay? So there's a lot of money going on, and the patterns have worked out the same again. You see them in Bitcoin, you see them in crypto, you see them in the stock markets, doesn't matter where you are around the world, it's the same pattern over and over again. So this is the importance of understanding and learning a particular pattern, because you can apply it to any other market in the world. So you can see these pullbacks, and eventually the market could not be contained any further underneath 4,400 points, and we've seen this breakout to the upside. And so what we've found, what we've seen now is that this is a new fresh high going all the way back for 16 years. So it hasn't reached these prices in 16 years, basically the top of the GFC, or prior to the GFC, because we weren't calling it the global financial crisis before we had the crisis. So the peak here in 2007, that's the pricing now where Europe finds itself. I think it has the potential to get closer and test the all-time high itself. So 2000, that's basically the dot-com bubble. Remember, this is the top 50 stocks in Europe. This could be that chance after winding up so many times over the last 15 or so years since 2008. You got the 2008 low, you got the 2012 low, you got the 2020 low, 2022 low, and of course we've just broken out of that now. So it's a huge wind up. Now I think this is super important for Bitcoin because we're starting to see a lot of these markets now stretching into new highs of many, many decades, stuff that has never happened in Bitcoin's history. So I think it's a matter of time until that money starts to flow into BTC. Top 50 stocks in Europe hitting new fresh highs of 16 years, and I'll come to these areas as well, is a pretty interesting point for the entire market to be at. Now, on top of that, that's your total 50 in Europe. Looking at the German market, this is July, end of July, we've got 8 hours to go. It's in a new, fresh, all-time high. It'll be a new highest close in its entire history. Its highest close ever on a monthly chart. It's had its highest close already on a weekly chart. It's had its highest closes in history on a daily chart, in history. And remember what's going on in Germany. It's in a recession. New highest closes in all of history, all-time high prices. It's in a recession. So these fears of recession, although they might happen, maybe the US does call a recession this year or next year, it doesn't matter for the price of the stock markets, and it doesn't matter for BTC in our macro outlook. We're seeing the technical structure play out, and we're seeing the news get shafted. It doesn't matter about the economy. Is Germany near recession? Isn't its only economic problem? Germany's economy stagnates in second quarter. Now they're looking at Germany's economy exiting recession. Think about that. It doesn't last that long, or it may not last that long. At the end of the day, what happens? We trade price. We don't trade the news headline. So keep that in mind if anything like that does happen to the US. And maybe it doesn't, and we're better off just trading the market because it is up over 30% since the bottom. And for the NASDAQ, since the low, it is now up over 50%. Pretty decent numbers when you consider that this is a stock market and not a cryptocurrency. So overall, we're seeing that for the US market's getting very close to their all-time highs. The NASDAQ here about 4 to 5% off its highs, closing the week out at a new highest close of 2023 and a new highest close since December of 2021. It's closing higher than anything in 2022 now. S&P, very similar sort of deal, breaking through some of these highs here. Now, the German market, as we just covered, it is in new all-time high territory. The UK market is springboarding out of the July low, putting in a higher low than March as well, and getting closer again to a new all-time high. And the French market, same deal. Even with the fires and the riots and everything going on in Paris, which if you read the headlines, it's pretty severe stuff. The stock market, because we trade the markets, we don't trade the economy, we don't trade what's going on in the streets. These markets are getting very close again to new all-time high prices. And this is something that Bitcoin has never seen in its history as well. A lot of these markets have been underneath their old all-time highs for quite some time. This can be some of the biggest price movements that we see for Bitcoin. Once these markets really start to get a move on and we get that extreme exuberance like we saw in the markets for the bull market, so the retail bull market, looking at late 2020, 2021, that was the extreme bull market, even though the market bottomed in December of 2018. That is a bull market, well, the bear market bottom and the start of a bull market, counting it from this date here, not from those periods there. This is the bull market, the entire move, so that you can get a reading on it for your own macro cycle analysis. These are the exciting times. They're the extreme times that the media starts to talk about BTC once it breaks into a new all-time high. And as it gets closer to the top, you don't have that long left. Maybe it's between 6 and 12 months at those tops. But for us that are watching the markets, we know where the bottoms have come in, and we know we've got a fair bit of time in that entire movement. So looking at the chart for the Euro stocks, I've just circled these areas of the Bitcoin bull markets. So I'm looking at these because you can see when these markets themselves get a significant move on, and it's not the entire move itself. Remember, Bitcoin has a pretty short lifespan when it comes to the bull market itself, whereas stock markets, they can go on for years going up and up and up. These are good times ahead for Bitcoin and the rest of the markets. You can see this is the 2011 into the 2013 peak. You can see the market was down prior to that, but went on a particular move to the peak here. And then, sure, there was a sideways period, a little move up, and then all the way back down. So that was basically the bear market for BTC. Then stock market went up again, the entire move, bottom to the top. That was your 2017 bull market. It went down from that point, tried to come back up. The pandemic happened, and then from the bottom of the pandemic to the top, that's pretty much the exciting time for the rest of the market as well. We had the bear market of 2022, and well, this is what we've just seen now, a breakout into these new highs. And we haven't seen Bitcoin's reactions after the European stock market breaks into new fresh highs. This time it's at 16-year highs, and I dare say it's going to get back to at least 22-year highs and potentially new all-time highs as well. So those particular areas, that is the movements in the stock market where Bitcoin also had its bull markets. You can clearly see that those significant moves in the stock market are basically coinciding with significant moves in Bitcoin's price as well. And it looks like we're on the verge of yet another one for BTC. Once Bitcoin can break through this key level of $25,000 to $32,000 to the upside, yet another nail in the coffin of the bears, and it just goes on and on with this early stage of the Bitcoin bull market. So keep a lookout for this, as we're seeing many signs of the markets breaking out into new fresh highs, which also helps Bitcoin's case. Links in the top of the video description for the World Series of Trading. Use that link to join our squad, and you'll get some other bonuses as well sent to you on email. So check that out there. $8 million trading prize pool. Pretty staggering. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys back here at another video very soon. Honestly, these times are absolutely phenomenal. I can't believe we are seeing new fresh highs coming through to some of these markets which have never seen them in over 16 years, and potentially even working our way to new all-time highs. Thanks again, guys. Catch you at the next one. Till then, peace out.